Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Japan Show. We are the Aussie Shoguns. My name is Mick, and I'm here with Isaac.
Konnichiwa minasan.
Konnichiwa. And today we have a special podcast, don't we, Isaac?
Yeah, we're going to be chatting about one topic in particular that we've found fond.
We have indeed. We met through our Japanese studies. So up until the point where we met each other, and then past that as well, we vary a little bit with what helps us. So just talking about our study journeys today, and hopefully that can help everyone else who is also doing language study. If you're doing Japanese study like us, that's cool.
Or any language for that matter.
Yeah. But anyhow, I just got back to Brisbane, and that was a flight. Getting on a plane for the first time this year, yeah. I was a little bit more scared than usual, Haven't been riding one for a while.
But there was a storm rolling in as well.
Yeah. If you guys have listened to the recent podcast, we were recording them. I was up in Townsville with Isaac. And then, yeah, the storm came. And then you sent me that, like, after I arrived in Brisbane, the huge storm, just like how big it was on the map.
I was looking at some, like, the stats from that storm. There was 81,000 lightning strikes over the Townsville area.
81,000.
But in a matter of 4 hours, 21,000 of those hit the ground.
That's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Sheesh. Well, I missed out on the storm just barely. So I'm happy I came back safe. My parents are probably happy for that too. But yeah, I think that's all because we've been catching up quite recently. Is there anything new for you?
Oh, not really. I got a haircut. Looking fresh.
Got a haircut. Looking fresh, bro. Looking nice.
Yeah, I go away for a couple of days from tomorrow onwards, 3 days away for our anniversary, and then come back, get back into it. Next week's making money week.
Nice. Well, I hope you have a fantastic time away. But for today, let's jump into our topic.
Study.
Do you want to start us off with kind of like where you started on your journey, and then we can do like our starts?
Yeah, sure. So we're going to focus on study methods and where we've started, where we've come from, where we are at now, how much further we've got to go, which is still a long way. But yeah, so I started probably, I want to say I started when I was young, learning. I didn't continue it, like it wasn't a continuous thing till recently. But so I started probably in 2013, I would say, year 10. Like I had some experience before then and had studied the hiragana and katakana and memorized them before, and there weren't some words here and there, but I never really got stuck into it until year 10. And then I got into year 10, I was able to enroll in a Japanese class. My school didn't offer it, so we had to go cross-institutional, or I can't remember what they call it, distance education when you're at school. So I did it through Brisbane School of Distance Education. I did year 8, 9, 10 in the 1 year.
Yeah, so wait, did you go? So it wasn't offered at your school. So then you went and you like applied for it to do it at another school while you're in high school, right?
Yeah, so I had to go ask. There was already one student at our school doing it through this company or this other school. So I went to the head of secondary at my school and was like, look, I want to study Japanese. And they're like, okay, no worries. They enrolled me, got it all done.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so like it was paying the buck because I had specific designated time for classes, but then sometimes the school, like the Brisbane School of Distance Education, would be like, oh, our class is being held at 8 a.m. My schooling didn't start until 8:30. So I would have to go sit a class and then go. Or like it would be like in lunchtime, so I'd have to go take a class during lunchtime.
Well, props to you for taking the initiative. And I guess that's, anything that starts your journey.
Yeah, so dedication was strong that first year. We did year 8 and 9 advanced class, and then I sat year 10 in the same year. So I did the full 8 and 9 years, well, year 8 and year 9 in semester 1. And then I carried over and did year 10 in semester 2. and completed four terms in one semester.
How did you feel doing 4 terms in one semester? Was that like difficult, or did you find? I think like high school language learning often gets like, I don't know. People make fun of it because it's not that intense, so you don't learn that much. But it's like
It's
mandatory at
still
some
intense. Like
schools.
when you jam all that together, it's an intense ride. Like I think I ended up getting like C's and B's on my year 10 one just because it was so jam packed. Like you don't remember, I had no one at my school studying Japanese at the same level. So I had no friends that was speaking it, nothing like that to practice with. It was just the time I got in class plus my textbooks. So year 8, I finished the textbook and all the classwork in half the semester, which was like, so a semester in school is made up of two
Two,
terms.
two. Oh yeah, 2 terms.
2 terms. So like I did the full year 8 and 9, all my workbooks done, so it was like 13 weeks of workbooks. Had them all filled out, they're like 20 pages of workbook, all done by term 1. So then all I'd do was sit my exams, and then term 2, it got a little bit more intense because I had to catch up on everything the year 10s had already done, and then continue learning what they had already done. Like continue learning with them, and so that was really hard in that semester. I remember struggling a lot because it wasn't just basic stuff anymore. I started to get into like directions and stuff, and a lot more complicated things than just learning a few phrases and how to talk in basic conversation. So it was difficult not having anyone in Townsville to be able to talk to and put the extra work in with.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, props to you for initiative and then putting the work in. I also started at high school. If I was talking about my start, then it was it was done. The Japanese class was done at my high school that I was at. It was just year 11 and 12. So Canberra, I'm not sure if it's all of Canberra or if it's just the school I went to, but it's split up. So in Australia, high school starts from year 7 to year 12 normally, right? Or grade 7 to
Yeah.
grade 12.
Oh, it was originally when I was in school grade 8 to grade 12, and then they've moved it as of like 2 or 3 years ago. It's now grade 7 to grade 12.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah. So for my high school in Canberra, it was split up. It was like year 7 to year 10, and then year 11 and year 12 was separate again. And so that was where I made friends, and everyone was studying Japanese. And like I didn't study until like the very last term at the school. And so I was a little bit like you, and the teacher was like, "Well, we're already in our last term, so you're gonna have to like cram or try and do this or that." And so I was like, "Well, I already have enough credits to graduate, so I may as well just like sit the class for fun," which is where I started. And again, probably similar to you, like just cram learning hiragana and katakana like really quick, and then just try and like. I remember they were doing like directions and like how to do stuff when you're in a taxi in Japan, but I was like, I don't I don't know. I don't know how to do enough in Japanese yet. I don't know why I have to learn directions.
Yeah. So like that's where I struggled because that was year 10 for me. That's where we went in year 10, and then year 11 I sat, and according to my academic transcript, my QCE, which you get at the end of your schooling career, according to that, I passed Japanese. But they allowed me to enroll in year 12, and then when I got to year 12, they told me I failed it, like year 11 Japanese. So I dropped out of Japanese there for 2 years.
Yeah, I see. And then so you were really passionate about it. You did a bunch of it, and then because like marks and stuff and everything got you down, you had like a bit of a break.
Yeah, so I had year 12 off, and then I kind of didn't get an OP because of it, and then I enrolled in. I was sitting on the couch one day, and Dad was like, "What are you gonna do with your life? Like, you actually got to do something." Like just before university was about to kick off, and I was like, "I guess I'm going to uni." Then went in, enrolled online, got everything done, and that year I had off of Japanese as well because they didn't offer. I had to do an abridging program. They didn't offer Japanese in the abridging program.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's good to. Well, I know your dad as well. All the listeners, you know, your dad's kind of like that. He's good sometimes, where he like throws out something that's like a little bit challenging to you.
Yeah, it makes you think about life sometimes.
You're like, oh, okay, true. All right, let me do something. But
Yeah.
I'm glad that he did, because otherwise we wouldn't have met each other as well. Just saying.
Yeah, so like I remember going through my first year of uni, and I get like 6 months in. I go to the language. I did my first 6 months. I failed No, I passed everything. I think I got like distinctions and HDs in the first 6 months, and then I went to like the coordinator and was like, "Hey, look, I want to do Japanese. Like, I know it's not offered as one of your programs. Can I do it? Can I do the basic one or the like, the lowest level one there is?" And she was like, "Oh yeah, I'll get back to you." A couple months later, still haven't heard anything.
Oh man,
So
that's
then I
rough.
was like, you know what? Screw your course. I'm transferring out to a bachelor's. So I just left my diploma and transferred out.
Transferred out to the bachelor's. That's fair enough. I also ended up transferring out, but I guess for me then to get to the university point. So we both started doing high school stuff, but I'm a year older than you, right? I think that's right.
Yeah, but I believe we're in the same year at school. As say, we both graduated 2015.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's right. And then for me in 2016 is when I went to Japan for the first time because I still didn't know anything. I had learned hiragana, katakana on an app, but I did no idea how to speak, read, write, like nothing. I was still pretty much at zero. I went to a language school in Tokyo with a friend, which was like my start after high school. I call that like my initial actual start because up until that point, I feel like I was just like some person who was like in the
Curious, but hadn't studied.
yeah, like I was in the Japanese class, but I wasn't like one of the students. Like the teacher she didn't like look at me as one of the students. She was just like, he's just hanging around. And I guess like I felt that way as well. But then I got to the language school and I spent 6 months at a language school in Japan, and the terms were like 3 month based. So the first 3 months was good. They made you sit a test at first, like to see what level they should put you in, and pretty much they said I get level 1, and I didn't know what that meant at the time. Pretty much the only difference between level 0 and level 1 is that you either don't know hiragana and katakana, or you do know it, like you can read it. But at the end of 0 and 1, you're at the same level at the end of the course. So I was pretty much at the very bottom.
Yeah, that's rough. I was trying to think what to say, but I got nothing to say to that.
I was just like, well, I mean, I guess that's where you start, right? So
Yeah. But I just find it's funny how like you go in being able to do the same different things, but you come out at the same level.
yeah. I mean, I guess yeah, just a low level, I guess. But I felt worse because my friend was a higher level. Like he got accepted to do a higher level, but then he was like, nah, I want to be like in the same classes as my bro over here. So he like took the same. He took a lower class, and then like joined me, or we were in separate classes, but like it was at the same time, so we could like hang out together still.
Yeah, so what you're telling me is he really should take that advanced class so that now he'd be on the same level as you.
No, he really should. Yeah, he really should have just taken the advanced class and ditched me. But happens. And then that was the first 3 months, and then we did another 3 months, so 6 months in total. The second 3 months was an advanced course that we did in the afternoons in Japan, and I think it was quite challenging, compared to the first one because that was the very bottom. I think we went up. It was almost like going up 2 levels, I think, and we were doing that. I ended up failing the class, I'm pretty sure. My friend didn't, but that was my like language school experience. It was really good because there was like a mix of people. I met people from all places in the world, like Russia, German was like quite a lot. I have a Swiss German friend I've met through there. Just like a lot of like mix of people, and everyone was there to study Japanese. So it was cool to like vibe with everyone and share what your interests and stuff are.
Yeah, for sure.
But from there, I took like another 4 months off of like being in Japan on a working holiday visa. So I never ended up working, but you can stay up to it's 6 months at first, and then you can apply for another 6 months. So you can be an entire year in Japan if you come from the right country. So if you come from Australia, I know that you can get working holiday. I think Canada as well. I'm not sure about America, but
I've heard that America you can't.
yeah, I don't think you can. But That was the visa that I was on. So I was like hanging around for another 4 months and just started doing self study. So the same thing that you've said, like using flashcards on the phone and stuff, doing Memrise was the app that I use. And I started studying like the JLPT. I think I was going through like N4 at the time. And I was just like just trying to blitz through all these cards and like learn new words and then just use them throughout the day or whatever. But I was like kind of like going through that pace, looking up what people were doing in classes and trying to do that kind of stuff. Um, so that was like my beginning. And then I came back to Australia and I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't want to go to university. I think similar to you, I didn't have the best like education experience, best high school experience. I didn't feel like so passionate about classroom learning, which made me like feel hesitant towards going to university. You know what I mean?
I didn't really give much of a damn for school, to be honest. I like looking back at school. I enjoyed my time with my friends and that, but I didn't enjoy what I did at school.
Okay, yeah. So that's like quite similar with me. And so then going to university was like then the next I was like, why would I go to a school then where I'm gonna have to like pay for my classes and whatnot? Like that seems even lamer. So
Comparing them though, like now being through university, I would highly recommend to anyone if you've got a passion for something, even if it's not going to lead to a job, but you want to study it. I would recommend it, just because school and university is so different.
yeah, I agree with you there. It's very different. And but that was like my headspace. So I took a year off when I was like back at my family's house, working. And then it's almost similar to how your dad said, but my mom and dad, like I decided that I want to go to university because to go and live in Japan or in Asia in the future, as a foreigner, as someone who's not from there, you have to have a degree to get visas and stuff to go there. So that was my initial kind of like, oh, okay, I guess I gotta pursue study. And from there on, I asked my parents what they recommend. They said go to Townsville. There's a good university up there. We're pretty fond of the place.
That was a bad recommendation.
I'm glad. I'm glad I went. But I do. It was quite interesting because I had never been to Townsville before. I think my first time to Townsville was like I rocked up and then I was like I was moving there. This is my first time, I'm pretty sure. So no experience of the place, but my parents recommended it, so I went. And then that leads us up to university study. So both.
Just to give you an idea quickly before we get into that, I picked up a university student yesterday. He had just moved here. He looked to be struggling with the heat. Like it's been like it's Townsville's very north, so it's very hot. And like for anyone to just move here from south, it definitely takes it out of you mentally.
Yeah, mentally, physically. I remember I walked one night when I was in Townsville. I was just going on a walk and my like shirt was just covered in sweat, like you could wring it out. And I just remember that I've never been to a place where I'm walking at night and it's that hot.
Oh man, I'm sweating sitting here right now talking to you.
So I know feels bro. But that leads us up to university. So our starts were in high school and then doing some more study in year 12 after a break, if that was correct, right?
Yeah.
And then for me, it was like at a language, doing a little bit of high school, then language school, and then taking a bit of a break. I still studied during that year when I was working, but I didn't have like a clear cut path, so to speak. So then it leads us to university, where we met up at the university in Townsville, and I was in the third year course, I think.
Second year. Yeah, third year, sorry. So the way Townsville did work, or JCU did work, is they had 4 levels. They had foundation, basic, intermediate, and then advanced. So I started off in foundation when I started because of where I was at. Because I hadn't finished year 12, I couldn't go straight to intermediate. The teacher there recommended I start from the bottom again.
Yeah, okay. And the teacher there, it was really strange because I had said I went on a working holiday visa to Japan. He was like, all right, choose what level you want to go in. And I was like, that doesn't tell me a lot about what the levels are. But
yeah,
I decided to go intermediate because I figured that's the one that you have to do before going on exchange and whatnot. So I was quite similar to you though, because I finishing high school, I didn't get an OP. So for people who are not from Australia, like OP or ATAR, it's pretty much the thing that you get a score after finishing high school, and it lets you get into
It
university.
it determines more or less what you can study at university as well.
That's a better way to put it. Um, and so I didn't have that either. So I did a similar course to you, I think. Going in, it was like a diploma of higher education. Is that what it was called?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I got in that, and I did that for 6 months, but I always had the intention. I never had the intention of staying in the diploma. So I was already doing the Japanese class from my first semester, I think.
Yeah, because we didn't meet till second semester.
Yeah.
We might have met once in the first semester, but it was like when my friends from my class were going somewhere and then we ran into you in the library.
Yeah, yeah. And how do you feel? So now that we're coming to the end of university, how did you feel with language study? Because you also studied French. Doing French and Japanese study at university, and how did you change that, like in your own time? How did you start changing your study methods or stuff during university?
It's interesting, right? So studying two different language at once, I don't recommend. It's extremely hard to try and get your head around when you're trying to memorize or acquire different words from different languages. Like I remember I went to New Caledonia with my French degree and with my French minor, and I found it extremely difficult in switching between languages when I needed to, because I've got three up there, and when you're trying to think of a word, it would come in two languages, but not the other one.
What did you find most difficult then? Was it like because you were still learning Japanese at the same time, like you were thinking French and you're like, I need that word, and then like a Japanese word would come?
Yeah, or an English word. Just depend
Okay.
on what I was feeling. It still happens.
Fair enough. That is one of the big reasons why people have asked me if I learn another language, and I'm like, not until I like master, I'm completely happy with myself in Japanese because it seems so difficult.
Oh, I just feel like they reckon once you acquire one, it's easy to get a second. I don't reckon so because, you've been going 5 years, I've been going 4 years. And to get to that point again in another language, like it takes so much dedication and time.
Yeah, 100%.
But in terms of like studying at university, I enjoyed the way we studied at university in both of my classes because they're both different, right? So Japanese was more verbal. You learnt through doing it, not so much handwriting and copying notes off a screen and that, which French did as well, but there was a little bit more writing in French and they tested all your skills. See, where it's Japanese for me, I didn't mind writing and reading on my own. Like I could do that, it wasn't an issue. Um,
Yeah, I see
so
what
yeah,
you
I
mean.
I enjoyed Japanese for that. Like before I met you, I did 1.5 years, and then I met you and I finished my second year, and I learned a lot through him. Like I still feel like I know a lot of what he taught, although his teaching methods weren't always the best. I found I retained a lot because I was using the vocabulary so much. Like I had to know it because our exams were you rock up to his room, he gives you like slides, and then you have to recite or be able to like improv, I guess you could say, like how this interaction goes. Like one slide might be, oh, you know, are you hurt? Yeah, my leg's broken or whatever. But
Yeah,
like in
yeah.
more complex situations.
Yeah, I remember because yeah, we obviously had the same teacher being at the same university, but his teaching methods exactly like they were hit and miss, but you definitely remembered the stuff because when it came to crunch time, when it came to the tests, you had to know it. Otherwise, you're gonna lose your class.
Yeah, he definitely drilled you on that too. Like, can't remember what word he used to use, but he was like, especially in class, it's like, oh, I guess the exam's gonna be a bloodbath. He would
Yeah,
always pull that out.
yeah. I remember in one of my exams, just this particular moment, I used like in we were talking about the Great Barrier Reef. I think I've told this one to you
uh,
before.
yeah, I remember because I had this. I remember I asked you before my exam, which was the following year, about it because I was like, I know you struggle with this word. What is it? And you sent me it, and I was like, okay. And then it came up in my speaking exam.
Well, I'm glad you asked me then. Hey,
Mm.
but pretty much because I had checked with everyone, all of like my Japanese friends, on how to say like Great Barrier Reef, and they were all like, "Well, you say just say it in katakana," which, for those of you who are at the beginning or like thinking of studying Japanese, using katakana just means like using the foreign words, foreign imported words. So it would mean that the Great Barrier Reef turns into Great Barrier Reef. It's just like pronounced different, right? Somewhere along those lines. But no, the classic, the kind of older way of saying it, Sangosho,
That's what it
Sangosho
is.
is reef, and then Dai is like the big kanji. So Dai Sangosho, so Dai Sangosho, I think is. I don't know how to pronounce it, man. That is Great Barrier Reef. Anyway, I remember I got pulled up on that because I was like in the test and I said like Great Barrier Reef, like the katakana version, and then my teacher was like, "No, no, no. How do you say it?"
He's like, yeah, no, that's not gonna fly here. What's the real one?
Yeah, and I was like, "Isn't that the real one, man? You know what
He
I'm
was
saying?"
he was big on using like indigenous Japanese words too.
Yeah, yeah. He was definitely a big kanji compound fan. I think that came from his like Chinese studies before because he was like really
Yeah.
into the kanji, which is good. But yeah, so from our university study like that, I say that the classes, there's sometimes you'll hear people online and they say like the classes they weren't, as good as they could have been, or this or that. But I think in general, university classes taking language courses were fine. But it's just good to acknowledge that you won't learn like everything that you want to be able to do in the language. You can't learn that in a classroom with a curriculum.
I feel like you don't learn real life skills. Like you can learn some good stuff, but there's just not enough there or enough time for that matter. I feel like the big thing with university class, right, is there's not enough time to teach you everything you need to know.
Yeah. I think, and yeah, there's not enough time. And then on top of that, because you have a class full of people, I mean, for instance, for yourself, right? You like golf or sports like far more than I do. So then when it comes to teaching
Personalizing,
individuals, what was that?
like personalizing it to people.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like being able to personalize it, I think, is such a big thing in a language because even when it comes to your native language, like there's vocab that I know because I guess more of a audio and technical background sometimes when it comes to like musical instruments and that kind of stuff. Whereas then like heaps more sports stuff. So sometimes you'd say something and be like, even in English, I'm like, wait, what? And you're like, oh, it's a golf thing. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I've definitely had that when I've been around you. You've talked about audio engineering or other stuff I don't really care for. I'm like, well, there's another word I don't know. I'm not going to learn it though because I'm never going to use it again.
Yeah, yeah. And so like I don't blame them, but like that I think becomes one of the problems when you get to intermediate and advanced classes, is like it needs to be more personalized, which is hopefully we can dive into our personal studies in a second. And
It's hard to do, like, depending on the size of the classroom. I mean, for us, it wasn't too bad. Like, in my intermediate class, we had 4 people.
4 people.
Yeah, so it was pretty, like, we had been together through the whole journey pretty much. And so he kind of knew where he was at, but he didn't change his teaching style to suit us or, like, what our interests were.
Yeah, I see. So yeah. So I think there's a place for university study like that, but then on top of that, I know that you and I have both done like self study through university as well, which leads us to like now when we're finishing university, like how are we going to move forward? So how's your self study journey been?
So I always self-studied before I met you, but it was, like, in a completely different way. So it was, like, studying what I'd learned in uni and then trying to watch anime and listen to different words and pick up different stuff, which is great. But like, I find a lot of the time, if you don't know where you're going with the language or how to learn it properly, then there's no real, like, you don't really get anywhere. You kind of waste a lot of time, but you don't really learn anything.
Yeah.
So then when I met you, I obviously started with memorize and something called remember the kanji, because I was at a point where I felt like a lot of my vocabulary wasn't too bad. Like, it wasn't huge. It still isn't huge. But I've got enough there that to take the next step, I need to know the kanji. So when I'm reading stuff or when I'm watching anime with Japanese subtitles, that I can pick up on different words, not just from the kanji, but like I can get a deeper meaning of it if I don't know that word in the sentence.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I think before meeting you, when I was in that first semester at university, I had heard of. Sorry, I should start from when I first heard of it. I guess there's a method called AJAT, all Japanese all the time, is what the acronym stands for. And I first heard of it from an American friend when I was in a share house in Tokyo in that first year. It just seemed a bit crazy though, because my American friend was like, literally, you just listen to what this guy has to say. You put your headphones in. All you do is listen to Japanese all the time. Even if you sleep, listen to Japanese. And I was like, okay, this is a bit intense. And I didn't think too much of it. I tried to integrate some of those things into how I studied, but it might have been like similar to you, because it's like not maybe just like similar to when there's a huge deficit. Like I was still lower. I didn't know a lot of vocab. I had my cap was pretty low on what I knew, and so then like just trying to do everything in Japanese all the time meant that I just like didn't understand so much stuff. So it was very daunting.
Not just that, I feel like although it's good, I feel like you've got to reach a kind of basic understanding before you even attempt it. And I know we kind of differ in opinions here, but like I feel like if you jump straight in, that you get so discouraged. And I still watching anime and studying still get discouraged sometimes, because I'll go from understanding almost everything in one anime to watching another one and understanding like close to zero.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the difficulties, especially, is that. But that's when I first heard of it, and then in that first term at university, a couple years later, I found this guy on YouTube that goes by Matt versus Japan, and he talked about the method, or like how to change the method to like better it for yourself, and like how to integrate it a little bit better for. Should I say he was still intense about it, but it was like how to go about and do things quite literally, like how to make flashcards for yourself, or like RTK, how you should study it so that it like you actually RTK, the remember the kanji method. And so it's like he actually talked about his methods, made videos about it, so it was like much easier to understand. And I think that's when I first started integrating it. So I would start doing watching on Japanese Netflix. What's the show? Terrace House.
Such a good show.
Yeah. And I think that show really helped me with daily life conversation stuff, because pretty much the method was like, don't use the subtitles, or like if there's Japanese subtitles, use those. And so I got onto watching Terrace House, and exactly like you said, I don't know, you could go I went from watching Terrace House to watching like different shows or a different anime, and because the vocab or the topics are different, it just like completely you go from understanding stuff to not understanding, which is kind of lame.
Yeah.
But I mean, for me personally, I just think whenever there was those times where I went to like not understanding a lot, it like pushed me more to be like, I need to work harder, because like I want to understand this.
Yeah, but I feel like you didn't ever have a moment where you're just like, oh, I'm done. Like I put so much effort in. I'm so like I felt like I've come so far, and now I feel like I'm back at ground zero, and you just don't want to do it again.
I feel like that was last year for me. I don't feel like I took too long of a break. Okay. I had like a couple little breaks, but then I feel like last year I was happy with where my Japanese was at. And then I kept on running into places or things where I didn't know words or a couple like vocab and stuff, but I would just ignore it. And then like I started paying attention to it again, and that's why I'm back on the high horse. I'm ready to study again this year, because I feel like I just let it go too much. And so I do feel like the down happens. But better to take it as encouragement, right?
Yeah, I guess. It's hard some days.
It's hard some days.
Yeah. Sorry, it's raining here. I got distracted slightly by the rain.
Hopefully that'll cool it down for you up there.
No, it's just making it hotter.
So, how would you say then, moving forward, are like, what's the study methods, or like how do you in your daily life or like weekly take kind of like your knowledge that you've learned in university and then your self study that you've done to move forward after finishing university? How are you going to do it?
So we pretty much use the same technique now because you kind of pushed it onto me, or not pushed it, but like
I
slowly sowed the
forced it
seeds.
upon you.
Yeah. So we just got Anki set up to be able to, so I can start using that more because I was doing the RTK, and as we said before, I wasn't able to go to Japan last year, so I had a bit of a down year in terms of study. Didn't really continue with it. So at this point, I'm finishing RTK. I've got like 600 words left or something to go, so I'm not far off doing that. Once that's done, I'll probably stop there and move into more immersion based stuff. Work on pulling words from TV and anime and games and all that other good stuff,
Yeah.
and just using it that way. I mean, I don't think, being in Australia, I have no one really that I can speak Japanese to verbally. So I feel like if I can at least get my reading really good, my listening good, and my writing good by messaging friends in Japanese, then my speaking should, by writing, be able to pull itself up to enough of a level where it's okay to use. It won't be perfect by any means, but it'll be a basis that when I'm able to start using it, I can pull it higher.
Yeah. And to input on RTK, so we've mentioned remember the kanji. I guess a little bit more detailed. It is in Japanese. They have I think it's Joyo kanji. It's like the standard kanji that's used in Japan.
There's 2,500 of them.
Yeah, so RTK aims to teach you all the kanji and the meanings per kanji. So it doesn't teach you how to read, or like the first book does anyway. It doesn't teach you how to read the kanji, but it teaches you all the meanings. And so then when you go forward, that puts you onto then Anki, like Isaac just mentioned, where you are learning from things that you're watching, whether that be an anime, a drama, if you're reading a book. You kind of put those sentences in, and then if you can recognize a kanji, that'll help your like memorization skills with then remembering the pronunciation then when you add that on. And so you just, after you finish this RTK, the remembering those kanji, then you start building upon your memorization of the meanings, and you start building up like what the actual words are and how you say it in Japanese.
And to give an example of that, I learned the kanji similar recently, and I was watching a show today, and it came up in context. It's a lot easier to understand. So niteru, to like be similar, and it came up in context. So like I knew the kanji, I didn't know the word. I assumed it meant something along those lines. I wrote it down, put it in my sentence card. I still got there. I got to put it together, but like I could just take an assumption from knowing the English meaning of that word and putting it, like when the sentence was said, I was like, okay, I already know the English meaning, so that gives me a basic understanding of what that sentence means. Like, granted that it may not be exactly what that word means, but I've got some kind of loose grip and understanding on it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I found it's been a little while since I did it, but exactly like that. I think that's what the benefit is you start recognizing stuff if you put like the Japanese subtitles and stuff on. Then it just starts coming to you, and you're like, hey, I've seen that.
Yeah, and then you're like, oh, they've said it. Like, for instance, my TV's a little bit rough on speaking, so it's hard to hear everything they've said. So if you can't, pick up what they've said, then you got to go search kanji.
Yeah. Very, yeah, that's rough. But yeah, definitely. So from RTK, from that is the start, and then this method. Do you find other listening stuff? Like, would you do listening to Japanese podcasts or listening to stuff? You listen to a lot of music.
Yeah, I listen to a lot of music. I mean, I drive most of the day, like 8 hours a day, so I listen to a lot of music. I can't really put audiobooks on or podcasts on when other people are in the car because I feel like putting something on them, like, you know, they're paying me, so I don't want to force that upon them. Whereas music, I'm like, it's got a beat, like they can groove to it if they want. If they don't like it, that's their problem. But audiobooks and podcasts, I feel are a bit rough. So when I'm in the car alone, if I've got like a bit of a trip, I'll put an audiobook on or whatever. But I don't really find that, I try not to focus on trying to pick up the meaning of every sentence. I just try and listen to the way words are said, and sometimes I'll pick up sentences here or there that I know, or I'll hear words that I know, but I'm not at that fluency where I can just pick up an audiobook and listen to it and understand everything.
Yeah, for sure. I think like because I currently listen to quite a few audiobooks, but it helped me to have like a podcast that I listened to where it was more chillax stuff. It's almost like the same step that I did, like I just mentioned, where I watched Terrace House, that like everyday kind of like life show, and then I went into other shows after that. It's almost the same way where I like went into everyday kind of like chat about podcasts, because it's a whole different thing. You don't have visual, which takes away so much. 'Cause it's harder to understand anything without visual, right?
Yeah, because they might say a word like kaku, to draw, to write. You don't have the kanji to give you the meaning, so you're judging the meaning off the sentence that's said.
Yeah. And not only that, like in an anime or something, if you didn't get subtitles, at least they would have like, they'd be drawing like right in front of
Yeah.
you, or like writing. And so then it would be like super easy to be like, oh, okay, that's what the word is. But I found, yeah, I found a little bit of difficulty when I first started just listening. I still find some difficulty. I've been listening to a book, reading a book that's about like an artist and like all these art techniques about like drawing and painting, and I have no clue. Like I don't even know in English, and so like I get super lost in some of the technical aspects of the book. But
if you don't have an interest in English, there's no point really.
yeah,
Like trying to stay there. Like, are you ever going to use it in real life? Like, maybe if you go to like one of them fancy art shows, but really,
man, I'm gonna
as long
go
as
to
you
all
get
the
everything else.
fancy art shows. I go to all of them, man. From here on out, hold me to it.
Nah, I'll be right. If you're that interested, you'll go.
Guy knows where to put it. But anyway, so that kind of sums up our study stuff. I'm pretty sure about there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there any like methods or stuff? Then we can move into like recommendations. What would we recommend for someone in different phases? Someone that's going through high school study, someone who wants to do all self study.
Okay, so high school and self study, I feel like are the same, right? So starting there, your basics, hiragana, katakana, learn them first, memorize them, practice writing them. I know you probably won't write often, but it's good to know how to write them, especially if you ever need to. That way you can identify them as well. Like if you're texting on a phone, you at least know how the characters are drawn. I feel like that's step one, is learn hiragana, katakana.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, learn hiragana, katakana, and start. Well, I mean, if you're interested and if say you're already watching anime, like start integrating some listening skills, especially if you don't have someone to talk to. I think it's important.
Yeah. So just turn off the subtitles, watch the episode, turn them back on, rewatch the episode. It's just training your ears to pick up the sounds and pronunciation of words. It's not to understand anything. It's just to be able to hear how things are pronounced. There's 5 syllables in Japanese that foreigners struggle with a lot, and it's arariru. And so I feel like as long as you can practice like hearing how it's naturally said in Japanese, all the syllables for that matter, and just copying how to say them in like almost mimicking the Japanese tone.
Yeah. So that would be like for recommendation for people starting out, and for people like coming up into intermediate to like push themselves next. I don't know, what would we recommend? Like kind of start.
I feel like there's a little gap there in between there, right? So you've got, once you've learned that, where do you go? I reckon to start out, just learn some basic words like, the 5 whys: who, where, what, when, why, stuff like that. Some basic stuff to help you start forming small basic sentences, I would say, is the best way to go from there.
Yeah. So then like for people who have passed the like beginning phase like that, and they're wanting to push themselves like into intermediate and then like above.
Yeah, so once you get to that stage, it's more like, I would say, moving to RTK and more watching Japanese with Japanese subtitles.
Okay, yeah, that's true. So like we just mentioned those things. I think on top of that, like when you hit the intermediate, it's really important to find something that draws you in. Like why are you studying the language still? If it's not your native language and you're just studying a language, like what draws you in? whether that be the music, whether that be like a TV show series, whether it be like something a part of the culture. Like maybe I have a friend who really likes Japanese tea, and my guy knows how to talk about tea. So, if that draws you in and that's like one of your reasons as to like further your studies, then I think that's important as well as finding a reason at that point.
Yeah, find something you're interested in, just follow it. If that's just Japan, Japan and the
Japan.
culture, then follow it. Like, if find a hobby inside that culture that you like, whether it's kabuki or tea or sports, find something that you can follow and do some research on, I guess.
Yeah. What would you say that is for you then?
I love it all. I do
You love it all.
I mean, like, there's things that I won't go into. Like, there's a whole look. You got to have so much time to be able to study so much, right? So, for me, like, I stick to things that I am interested in. That, but like, I like things like the tea ceremonies and that. But I'm not gonna go out of my way unless it comes up in a TV show to go study all that, because there's such a culture around it and there's so many intricacies in it that it would take me, I reckon, at least a year to get anywhere near a basic understanding of it and the words around it to be able to then start pursuing something like that. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like you've got to, like, it's a long way. It's not just, oh, I like, because it is so in depth. It's not just like, oh, I like this. I'm going to have a
Yeah.
quick look.
So you would say like currently then, when you're talking about at least for study, as well as like what your interests are, it's like if it's in general Japan, in general like a lot of these things, because of course we both vibe with anime. We've talked about on the anime about the podcast before. We will in the future. So anime is like one of those things. And then like onsen's another one of those things, and the food in Japan. So all those things draw you in. But then
Pretty much all our topics.
yeah, pretty much all the topics. And then like yeah, I get what you mean though. Like further in, like I'm interested in tea as well. But like if you're gonna dive into that, you're gonna dive into it like fully emerge.
Like, I feel like you need to have a basic understanding of all culture if you're learning a language. But I feel like to get to that level of like knowing something, it's like in English, right? Like, I love my sports and that, so like I learn it, and if I'm playing it or whatever, I learn the rules around it and the in-depth stuff. But like, I don't know, how do I put this? Like, for something like audio engineering, which my mate does and you do a little bit of, I don't really have an interest in it, so I kind of leave it up to you guys. Like, there's no point me looking into it. You guys know what you're doing. You guys are gonna cover my back. I don't need to worry about it. So when you tell me something, I'll nod my head and say, yeah, that's cool. But like, I'm not gonna bother going and looking up what it is, or unless I need to do something specifically.
Unless you're being asked to do something, okay, just tell me what to do, and then I do it.
Yeah, pretty much.
No, that's fair. Yeah. Well, I guess that sums up all the like the kind of study methods and stuff. Other channels, like has there been stuff that you find helpful for learning Japanese? Is there any channels you could recommend? I mentioned Matt versus Japan before. He has a lot of stuff, like free content that he covers about like his ideology from all the way from like when he was still learning to like now when he's more of a mentor person. He does other stuff. But any channels
this is where
that
we
you
differ
found?
a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't really like Matt versus Japan. I like some of his ideologies, but as a person and getting to know him, I didn't really enjoy what he did. I
think we're closer than you think on that. I just say as a whole, from an information standpoint, he has a lot that he talks about. I'm not talking about people's personal attributes. That's up to people are people. But from an information standpoint, he like says a lot of stuff where it's like, oh, okay, like, well, if I can implement that in my own study methods, why not? Kind of like that's how I think
I really have any channels that like I use like that give informational stuff about study. I feel like I've just found them through people and trial and error over the years. You know what I mean? So like Memrise, I would recommend Memrise to anyone starting to learn the basic stuff, or RTK if you want to go that way.
Yeah.
Anki, there's a lot of good stuff. Is his name Migaku?
Yeah. So there's a company just started called Migaku. Migaku, right? Migaku is how you spell it, Migaku, and it's for all language learning. They build like add-ons for Anki, so that when you're going to be studying, it's just more convenient.
Yeah, so I'd recommend that if you're at the more intermediate to advanced stage. Even if you want to start, I only just started. I'm doing 5 cards a day just to while I'm finishing off my RTK and that. So
Yeah,
recommend that. Just find something you're interested in. TV Viewer is a great website for Japanese media.
yeah.
I don't really have anything else. I mean, I use YouTube Music for Japanese music. We use Kindle for Japanese books. I don't think there's anything really else there.
Okay, well, I have one more. Not one that I use personally, but I had a friend who studies some more JLPT stuff. They recommended, so for Japanese learners, there's a channel called Nihongo no Mori. So it's Nihongo as in Japanese, no, and then Mori is forest, and it's just Japanese people who run the channel. I'm pretty sure. And they talk about all sorts of stuff from like helping people from JLPT N5 to JLPT N1, and it's different like grammar stuff. That's if you've had difficulty with that, or like words and stuff, and they do skits to help you remember.
I think that's a good one actually, because I feel like even now, although I've gone through university, like I don't often, because I'm not using my Japanese in terms of speaking and writing as often as I would like. I feel like I lose some of the how to construct verbs, like
Yeah.
taberu, taberareru, that kind of thing. And then again, I came across some how do you call it, grammar particles like kiri.
Oh
I
yeah,
came
yeah.
across the other day, and I had no idea, so I had to go look it up because I'm like, there's still some grammar particles that I don't know anything about. So I feel like that's a good one.
Yeah, so for people interested in those kind of JLPT stuff, it's a good one. I think lastly then, Dogen, right?
Good for pitch accent.
Good for pitch accent. So like he does a Patreon with pitch accent stuff where he explains it all in English. He's another Japanese based person, but he does skits on his YouTube channel, and so it's very encouraging, I think, to go watch. And it's like a bit humorous. He has English subtitles that he does for them, but he does like these skits, and to see this American guy that's speaking some good Japanese, it can be encouraging.
Yeah, indeed. I think that's about everything.
I think that's our study thus far. Study to go ahead. Do you have any goals? Do you want to set goals on this, or are we going to skip that?
To be fluent.
To be fluent? That's a very broad goal.
I guess that's a lofty goal, but I mean, my goal from the start was always to be fluent, to be able to use the language without having to use English or any other thing. It still is my goal. I still work towards that, but like that's the main one. I mean, I would like to have, I don't know, 500 cards by the end of the year, but
yeah,
like that's just like a broad goal at the moment. It's not really I'm doing this. It's like if I get there, it's good. If I don't get there, I'll be somewhere near there.
yeah. I feel the same. I am also trying to push for that, and then I'm currently on, because I'm a little bit farther down with making Anki cards. I'm at like 2,500 ish right now. So I guess my goal is I want to try and hit around 5,000 cards, because I feel like that'll close up at least the majority of the words that I don't know that I come across often enough now. That's my goal. I've set it. Now I have to try and reach it.
Have you got a date on your goal?
For 5,000 cards. It's probably the end of the year. I don't want to push it because there's a lot of stuff I'm doing. That's another 2,500 cards I got to make.
Yeah.
But we'll see how I go.
We'll check in with you at the end of the year.
You're gonna remember that. You're gonna bring it up to me.
Yeah, and shame you on the channel.
Public shame. But anyway, thank you again for joining us. This was our study methods, kind of a little bit of a chat. If you guys have any other questions, please let us know on that YouTube channel after you're subscribed. Hit us up with a little comment down below. Or if you're listening from the apps, that's also fine. We'll have a Discord channel. It's probably up now when this is being released.
The Discord channel is up. It will be in the description. We'll put a link in there.
Yeah, no worries. And
we also have a Facebook page.
Yeah, so any of those avenues, if you're a Facebook person, Discord person, YouTube person, let us know. how you felt. If you have any questions, we can comment back, or anything else. That's about it. So until next time, we'll see you soon.
Janne.
Janne.